Hi, hey, Jerry Hanley, Viking Performance Training here, and this video is going to be pretty much everything you hopefully need to know to start on the path to mastering the snatch. So starting off, I'm going to go over the main things to focus on, as well as it can be very confusing with the names and how many different exercises there are for the snatch. So for the snatch, it's a very explosive exercise. That should be the key thing you're looking at. That doesn't mean it can't be heavy as long as you've actually mastered what you're working on and you have the technique down, but explosiveness is the actual key. The pure snatch will be from the floor all the way to overhead in one movement. Just going through here, explosively, ta-da, we're done. Now, so that's just your very, very quick shot of what that is again. So one thing you might notice immediately is it's a very wide grip. So proper snatch, the grip should be wide enough so that the bar is actually right on your hips when your arms are straight. So again, you want to go all the way out, or not all the way out, literally, but all the way out to get that bar to right there in your hips. Not close to your hips in the thigh, but far enough to have it right in your hips, because that's going to be your launch point when actually coming up. So that right there makes it a very uncomfortable lift for a lot of people, and that's why getting your hips in the technique is so important, because it's a relatively weak spot to actually drive from. So to make sure first is get that grip. Now second is the actual setup of the upper body. Because of the grip, because of everything with the technique, because it is a fairly complex exercises for something that happens so quickly, there's two big points that I want you to get after the grip. So number one is get that grip. Number two is shoulder blades, lock them backwards. So roll them back and then try to lock them in that position. And then number three to go with that is taking then your elbows, and I'm gonna act like I'm trying to twist them forward or to the side. Now if you see me doing that here, you see my shoulder rolls forward. That's exactly why keeping that shoulder pinned backwards first, so the shoulder will not roll when turning the elbow, helps, and then it's going to lock and tighten up your entire upper body so that as much power from your lower body and your hips possible transfers directly into the movement of the bar. So number one, grip width in the hips. Number two, shoulders. Number three, turn the elbows out. Now from here, this is our actual snatch position. So typically what we do here at Viking is we start with tall muscle movements, as well as overhead squats before we actually do the movement itself. And then the first snatch exercise we do is a hip snatch pull, which is very, very short and explosive. So to go over that part first, the hip snatch pull, the main exercise we're looking at is we have our grip, we have our setup. The hip position is a very short dip straight down. I'm not even leaning forward. I'm not stretching the bar down my legs. My arms do not bend at all at the elbows. Dip straight down. See, I'm actually dipping in like a horse stance, pushing my knees out to the side so that I keep the balance in the middle of my foot. I'm very vertical. So again, set your upper body, dip, explode straight up, drive through the balls of the foot into the strut. So that's all transferring power. Again, set, dip, explode up. That's the hip snatch pull. Dip, explode up. So that is all we typically do for, say, a month or so for the first few exercises to build that initial explosiveness to the hips and the transfer of power through the upper body. Now, the other ones we can do with it, we'll do tall muscle snatches and overhead squats, using it as a back and forth warm-up combination, and eventually move into a actual warm-up complex with the bar. So typically used for the muscle snatch, PVC pipe first, even if it's just a warm-up, just enough so somebody knows the movement they're doing. Same grip, same position, same setup. Now with the snatch, we want the bar path to be right up the shirt. I mean that in the most literal sense possible. So not coming out in front, but straight up the shirt. So from there, set that position, straight up, keep the momentum going until it finishes right here over the back part of your head, directly over that back part of your neck. So it should be a vertical line from the quote-unquote bar through my shoulders, which should keep everything very tight and strong at that point. You can hold almost anything here, provided you're strong enough. If you get used to holding it in front, even if it's still over your head, I still have this forward lean in my shoulders. This is going to put a lot of strain on my shoulders. The heavier this is, the more impossible this is going to be to hold. If I go too far back, similar thing, you can see where this is a really bad idea for the shoulders, and it comes back that way. So to go with that, perfect timing to mention this, you also want to make sure that from the very beginning, anything overhead, the athlete understands what their plan is going to be to escape the lift if it goes badly. So whether it's a snatch or an overhead squat and they just fail, they hit a technique issue, and it is to dip and run away. So if it's in front of you, basically toss it forward, go behind you. If it's too far back and you lost control, then just drop it, go forward. So just drop them and get out of the way. If you're doing this in a commercial gym, they'll probably get really mad at you. They'll probably have already said you shouldn't do Olympic lifting. They probably already said it was dangerous, blah, 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 worthless crap. That's why you need a real gym like Viking Performance Training. So dropping weights should be encouraged. That being said, so we get the overhead, so we get the tall muscle snatch, get position, straight up, literally trying to use almost no upper body or no legs at all. Sometimes as athletes get heavier, I'll give them just a little bit of hip momentum to go into it. But again, this should be an upper body technique exercise, also warming up that upper body. And then the overhead squat. Typically you start with like a PVC pipe or a band. I chose to get the band for this one. This should be in that same vertical position, same grip. Two ways to do it in the band. Either having it completely in your hands here or standing on it and pulling it up and out. Here, that's it. We start in that same overall position of having it right over the back part of the neck. Now the overhead squat can be where a lot of people struggle, which is why try to start with something relatively lighter like the PVC pipe. Your body will, unless your body's built a certain way, you will have some amount of forward lean as you drop into the squat. The arm position you want to maintain straight up, because again, it's going to help you actually hold on to the weight, not in a straight line as in moving with you, but staying up so your body is actually moving underneath the arm. So we do that with bands, we do that with PVC pipe, and eventually you get those with the barbell. So then we'll eventually put them together, and what we'll do a lot of times is after the warm up, after any other explosive stuff, we'll have an athlete or a client start with tall muscle snatch plus overhead squat for sets of 3 plus 3 to 5 plus 5. And then after a couple sets of that to warm up and get the technique greased, they'll go from there to the hip snatch pull. So again, the actual warm up complex, got the grip, back, shoulders, elbows, tall muscle snatch, I'll do 3, coming through, keeping it tight to the body. Third one, readjust my feet if I need to, and overhead squats, I'm only gonna do one. So that's the start of how we begin our snatch training. Now from there, next thing we want to do is build up range of motion, allowing more room for the hips to build up power, as well as more room for the hip or for the actual exercise to move. So there's no right or wrong way into how to progress into these. You got two different choices. One is to increase the range of motion of the hips, and going from the hip position to instead the hang position, which will start exactly the same way, but then go ahead and start a slight RDL, chest over, but stay above the knees, and then come up. One of the parts that's hard about Olympic lifting, but especially snatching to a lot of people, is the need to be patient through that extra movement and get back to this power position that was the hip position. So as you go further, you still gotta get to that same position and drive up. So this would be hang, snatch, pull from here. Now, I'm gonna get super specific. What we're looking for, it is the explosive extension of the lower body, hip, knee, and ankle all at once here. So that's called triple extension. Explode, dip, all at once. Now the further you go out, again, you have to be patient to get there, but what you should also be looking for, coaching point, is when you're leaning over, you should see the shift of the momentum of that weight actually cross from being maybe in the front part of your foot, and as you pull it closer to your hips, it should cross right through the ball of your foot towards the middle. Right as that crossover happens is when the athlete wants to explode through, because that's when the bar and the weight are directly over. So that's when you want to hit your explosive point as a coach. That's part of why you want to be watching, to make sure they hit that sweet point and then explode through. Well now, so did the hang, snatch pull. So your other option is to start doing high pulls. So now, don't let the name fool you. This doesn't have to be a certain height, not even necessarily that high, just as high as the athlete can get on that particular rep. With the elbows, same explosiveness. So do a hip, snatch, high pull, followed by hang, snatch, high pull, coming up from there. And from there, the only thing left is going all the way overhead from the hang series. And now, this is another place you can start working some other exercises. Again, with very, very lightweight, like a PVC pipe early on. In the clean video, we're talking about Scarecrow cleans, I believe. You can do Scarecrow snatches, as well as snatch balances, just helping you get that catch ready. So what we're looking at with the Scarecrows, we start already elevated and on the toes, and then essentially dropping, trying to hit a catch position. So we get used to where that point should end. With a snatch, we don't want to get to a point where we're having to press it out. We want to just suddenly pop and snap into the fully extended position. So now, again, very lightweight, Scarecrow position, drop and snap. And then the other options you can do, like we don't do these a lot, to be honest. Like usually these exercises right here are enough for us to cover it. And we honestly don't have a ton of athletes that go into deeper positions where this would be necessary. But if you want to work a catch in a deeper position now or in the future, you could insert a snatch balance series, which I'll go over at the end of this, the snatch balance. So, all right, we did a Scarecrow. So basically from there, just take it and add the final pop. And then the step after that will be start doing it from the floor. Here, we got our grip, shoulders, elbows. You're gonna do hip first, explode up, snap, hip, and this is the power position I'm in, and I finish the snatch. So hip, power, snatch. Then to the hang, boom, explode through, hang, power, snatch. There we go. Now I mentioned once you get those in, you want to go from the floor and work from there. So usually actually at this point, if we are like really serious about getting the snatch in, we would actually start working it in probably 2 days a week. And the second day would start the floor work by getting the pulls down, going down there. And usually that would start what we call a segment snatch pull, or maybe even a segment snatch deadlift. Segment is where we have multiple pauses on the way through. The snatch deadlift is just simply deadlifting from that position. But for a true snatch start the floor, and the barbell will be about here, you want to get really, really low, pull down, chest up. Snatch is segment is 3 pauses, 1 inch pause. So you're looking here, I'm trying to actually keep my knees vertical, keeping them back. Come to the knees and pause, then shift. I've shifted back, and then I hip position again, power position. That's the 3rd pause, explode through. So I did the segment snatch pull. So again, nice and low, body weight back, chest up, 1 inch pause, knee pause, shift pause, explode through. And from there, we start adding everything in. Again, your choice, either the high pulls or hitting in those positions, and then going to the actual snatch, building up to an actual power snatch, which is no particular speed, no pauses, just at the ground, full range of motion, patience, snap, and drive it up, catch it in that power position. And then last, not least, would be catching it all the way down if that's something that you're working in and want to get to. So, I'm gonna start my PVC pipe. You're gonna work snatch balance exercises as well as the overhead squat. Because if you're dropping deep, that's essentially what you're doing, is catching it at the bottom of an overhead squat. So from there, snatch balances, there's 3 different ways we can do this. First way typically starts with a pressing snatch balance, which is I'm trying to keep the bar, quote unquote, unmoving on my chest and shoulders, and squatting myself underneath to the full extent position, then standing on the whip. Reset, keep that in place, squat underneath. There we go. Then I have a heaving snatch balance, which is like getting a little push on it, and then just really trying to squat down quickly, little push, squat down quickly. Last not least, a full snatch balance of an actual just drop into that position. So that can help work coming underneath, hitting that snap finish, and then I put it all together with the bar, nice and low. This will also be fun because I haven't done this in like 3 years. So let's pretend Coming through, coming through, coming through. Keep it close, drop, good and underneath. Stand up, smile to the camera, and you're done.